Hello, everyone, and welcome to this presentation today from PACE Immigration and PACE Global Advantage. We're joined today by some great guests. We've got Vince Lalonde, the Director of Immigration from PACE Law Firm. We have Stefania Szabo from PACE Global Advantage, and we have Vartika Manasfi, a special guest today who has gone through the startup visa process, and she's going to share her experiences with us. While we did say in the preambles and the emails that this is targeted towards an Indian audience, if you are from anywhere around the world, this information will be of value to you if you want to open a business or bring your business to Canada and or live in Canada. Joined now by Vince Lalonde, first on deck. Vince, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
So you're going to tell us briefly about the startup visa program, giving us an overview of the program, and then we'll get into what PGA does behind the scenes. And then we'll bring Vartika in to give us her firsthand knowledge. So Vince, if you want to go ahead and tell us about the startup visa program.
Sounds good. I'm going to go through these slides very quickly. I want to just provide a really quick overview of the startup visa program. Probably a lot of people are familiar with it already. It's been around for a few years. And it's sort of, if you look at the Canadian immigration trends, the startup visa program is very much in line with a lot of the trends that we see in Canadian immigration in general. You see the government trying to outsource some of their review of cases to third parties. The startup visa program, one of the unique things about it is that the selection decision is not made by the government immigration officers. It's made by the private sector. So the government has decided to involve incubators, venture capital funds, and angel investors into the entire process, including the selection of clients. So because we've got these private sector groups choosing clients, deciding who can participate in the program and become a permanent resident of Canada through the program, it's a really kind of cutting edge program, very innovative, and we're seeing some fantastic businesses coming to Canada through the startup visa program. Program is fairly new, launched in 2013. It was a pilot program at first, but due to its success, it's become permanent. It's supported by all levels of government. And the goals of the program are to attract not the traditional types of businesses that you used to see immigrants starting maybe 20, 30 years ago, but rather to attract innovative businesses, cutting edge businesses. So the three goals of the program are to attract businesses that are innovative, that can create jobs for Canadians, and can compete on a global scale. Okay, so we're looking for the next Uber or the next Airbnb, those kinds of companies to come to Canada and start here in Canada, as opposed to starting in their home country. And the permanent residence is a carrot that the government uses to attract these businesses to come to Canada and set up shop here. On to the next slide. So the requirements of the program, there are language requirements. You don't have to be, have perfect English, but you have to have some basic English. You have to bring enough money to settle. You don't need to prove your entire source of funds and your entire net worth like you do with some of the other older, more traditional Canadian business programs, but you do have to show that you have enough money to settle at least. You have to have a qualifying business, so a business that meets those three requirements that I just mentioned. It's an innovative business that can create jobs for Canadians and can compete on a global scale. And lastly, but probably most importantly, you need to prove that your business is supported by one of those designated organizations that I mentioned at the beginning. Okay, so you can't participate in the program unless you've arranged some kind of a cooperation and you've received what we call a letter of support, an official document from an angel investor, a VC fund, or a business incubator that has been approved by the government. Okay. Perhaps more importantly, some of the things that are not required under this program. There's no stated minimum investment requirement. That's quite different from a lot of the programs that people are used to looking at. Most of the other entrepreneur programs in Canada, not just in Canada, but around the world, the US or the Golden Visa programs in Europe, the Caribbean programs, all have a stated minimum investment. This program does not have any minimum investment, okay? Because they know that with an innovative new business, it really depends. Every business is different. There's no age requirement, there's no education requirement, and there's no stated management experience requirement. So I won't go through them in detail. The language requirement, it's about an IELTS 5. Bringing enough money to settle, you can see that the range there is between 12,000 and 33,000. Having a qualifying business, that's the important one that I mentioned. You have to have at least 10% of that business. Everybody who's joining, you can have up to 5 people actually come together and all get their permanent residence in connection with a single business. But each one of those people has to have a minimum ownership of 10%. And it has to be, like I said, it has to be innovative. It has to be able to create jobs for Canadians, and it has to be able to compete on a global scale. Okay, and most importantly, the cooperation with the designated organization. It's a really good feature of the program. You know, it can be very difficult to move to a new country and start a business from scratch if you're not familiar with the local laws, you're not familiar with you know, the business practices, you don't have the same connections that you have here in Canada that you might have in your home country. So having the support of one of these designated organizations, an incubator or an angel investor or a VC fund that has your back, they're able to make those introductions for you, help you get your business off the ground. It's really, really a key component of this program. Okay, and again, these are the 3 different types of groups. Sometimes there might be an investment from those designated organizations into your business, but that's not necessarily the case. My computer is a little bit slow, so it's taking a little bit longer to go from one slide to the next. But you know, how do I get the support of the designated organization? I think that maybe this is where I'll hand it off to PGA and to Stefania. They're the ones that really work on getting that letter of support and helping guide the clients through that process, because it's not easy to get the letter of support, but they've got a lot of experience helping clients with that step. So maybe I'll pass the mic to Stefania at this point.
Thanks a lot for that, Vince. Yes, Stefania, if you'd like to step in as the Director of International Relations for PACE Global Advantage and maybe give an overview of what PGA does behind the scenes for all this.
Thank you, Vince, and thank you, Sean. Hello, everyone. I'm Stefania Sabo. I'm Director of International Relations at PGA, and we are part of the PACE Law Group. We have a diverse portfolio, and PGA was established in 2009 with the goal to support the immigration team of the PACE Law Group. And I'd say steadily we kept supporting the immigration group over the years. And one of the areas where we work together is the startup visa program, but we provide business support in other immigration programs as well. This is our team. The immigrants who choose to work with PGA are going to work with me and one or two or three of the business analysts who work for PGA. So what do we do? Usually our clients contact the immigration team first, because this is an immigration program and the goal is to immigrate to Canada. And the immigration team screens the clients if they fit the program, and then we have a meeting together. So we support the clients that we build the business idea and we write the business plan. You might have your business plan ready wherever you are in the world, but it may not fit the Canadian requirements, so we work on it, or you don't have one, so we build one from scratch. We are going to make introductions to you in the business field where you operate, and we provide technical support to you. We have a strategic partner whom we are working with in the tech sector, and once you come to Canada, you want to incorporate, you need a tax advice, you need a website, you need to patent and trademark your product or services. We provide all these services in-house for you. And once you start your business in Canada, you may need some funds to operate your business. So we make those introductions to you as well. If we focus on the startup visa program, step one is we need to know that you have good language skills. You don't need to be colloquial in English, but you need to have a good command of English. And once we have our intake meeting over Zoom, we will quite certainly know if you have enough English language skills to participate in the program. Nevertheless, the Canadian government's needs, as Vince mentioned earlier, the IELTS certificate. We also want to see your CV to establish your business background, and we have a specific questionnaire that we send to clients. If you check all these three boxes, then we can move to the intake interview, where we introduce ourselves and you do yourself to us, and we understand what business you want to operate here in Canada. It might not be the same where you already achieved a success in your home country. You might want to do something else, something you always dreamt of but never had the time or energy to focus on. And then we tell you if we can help you or not. It's very important that we are forthcoming, and we will tell you if this is something we can help you with. Then we sign a contract and we start working together. We write up the business plan, we do the market research. We work with you, that you internalize the whole business concept, that it fits your expectations. And as I mentioned, we work with a tech partner with whom we can do a discovery and planning session. And once everybody is satisfied with what we have achieved, we start to apply on your behalf to designated organizations to get that coveted letter of support. You might want to ask, well, how long will it take? There are pre-COVID times and post or during COVID times. The timelines have expanded significantly, but designated organizations still try to make decisions pretty fast, and we've had some good successes in getting letters of support in a short time for clients. These are estimates based on our own experience. So from the time that we have the first intake interview with you, and then we present a business plan to you, usually it's about 2 months collaboration between you and us. And then we start to apply to organizations, and it's really up to the designated organizations how long their decision is going to take. I can tell you that the shortest time we got a letter of support for a client was 3 months after the intake interview, and the longest so far was 14 months when we managed to get the letter of support. Just 2 days ago, we got 2 letters of support for 2 clients. One waited for that for 8 months. The other one was 12 months. So it really, I would say it's not up to us. Of course, we try to do our best to get it as soon as we can, but we need to be patient and accommodate the designated organizations' timelines. These are a few of those incubators and angel investors we are working with to get the letter of support for you. And as I mentioned, that we have a technology partner, Focus 21. Few of our clients, we worked with them with much success to build an MVP, to build a UX design, to present the designated organizations what the business idea is. And this is how you can contact us. And I think at this point we are going to introduce Vartika, who is going to share her own experience who went through the Startup Visa program on her own.
Thank you very much for that, Stefania, Director of International Relations for PACE Global Advantage. She'll be back in a couple of minutes to answer some questions. Don't forget, you can put some questions in the chat feature and we'll see those. You can also, and they don't have to be public. You can address them just to the admin and I'll read them out. I've already got a few here. Vartika, if you'd like to come on the line, it would be great to see you. Vartika Manasfi, the founder of a lot of things. We were talking before you came on the air that you founded a lot of stuff. You've been pretty busy, but you are currently the founder and curator of StackRaft, among other things that you can talk to us about. But in your experience, we'll get some thoughts from you on your experience going through the Startup Visa program. If you're on the line, I see your video might be a little bit.
Yeah, I'm there. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Vince.
Perfect. Yeah, go ahead and give us some thoughts on the Startup Visa program, and then we'll come back with some Q&A.
For sure. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Stefania, for having me here. So as Sean said, in our world, I think I am qualified to call myself a serial entrepreneur now, having found 2 businesses, recently exited StackRaft, my second company, which got me to Canada on Startup Visa. So sharing my experience a bit here. So 2018, I didn't want to go to Silicon Valley because, of course, everyone comes there and tries to build a business. I was like, it's about testing the market, and why don't I just go to Toronto in Canada and figure out what's happening? And the market was emerging, the startups ecosystem, the space was picking up, and I just landed there to figure out what's going on and if I can build a company here and be successful. So it was more of like early discovery. StackRaft was not incorporated back then. And I was just in the discovery phase, exiting my first company and just moving here from India. And then I figured that, this is a good market to be in and I can highly likely build another company here. And being a second-time entrepreneur at that time, the idea was to not write single line of code, but see if I can get clients first. And I did manage to get few clients and interest in the market. And that signaled me that this is a good market and this is a good place to be in, and I can go forward and incorporate my company. Now I had to figure a way to come to Canada, and have a residency or a work permit to actually do business here. And I didn't know what to do. And that's when some folks told me about the Startup Visa program. I did a bit of a market research, applied to a whole bunch of incubators. That the funding scene in Canada is still picking up, so it was still hard to raise funds as an immigrant entrepreneur. So business incubator was the path that I really took, and applied to a bunch of incubators across the country. And I got my Startup Visa from Government of Alberta, Platform Calgary, which is also a partner of PGA. And so we were in their Junction program, me and my co-founder, and I landed in Calgary at that time. So this was pre-COVID. You'll be surprised if I tell you that within 3 months, I had my PR card in hand. This is all pre-COVID times. So it's hard just given the processing times and delays that we are seeing right now. So this was a bit of my experience on the Startup Visa front. And most recently, last year, I exited StackRaft as well. So I had both US incorporation and Canadian clients as well. So we did manage to hold on for 3 years of operations. And now I'm on to different things and figuring out new things. I'll probably start a third company, as most people say.
Yeah, serial entrepreneur is the word, are the words there, aren't they? You've been very busy. We'll bring Stefania back in as well, I think, because I've got some questions from people out there that maybe the two of you can field. A question coming in, and by the way, if you're on, we won't have speakers come in on video and audio. If you wouldn't mind just using the chat feature on the right of your screen, that would be great. So first question I have, and either one can field, but maybe Stefania, this for you. How much do I need to be involved in the application process? So right off the bat, people want to know about investment and money.
Well, this is not a passive immigration program. It's very important for every applicant to understand this is an active immigration program, so it needs your active participation in this whole process. this is your business. You are building your future in Canada, your business. So I think you would want to be involved, but the program needs you to be involved. If you are accepted by an incubator, they are running a program that requires your active participation. So the part where you work with PGA can be a little bit passive, but once you got the letter of support and you start the incubation program with one of the designated incubators, it is an active participation. It's not a long time, usually a few hours a month, but it needs your active participation. It's a great question, actually.
Anything to add to that, Vartika? I mean, what did you find in terms of the initial investment and the outlay that you had to make?
Yeah, I would completely agree with Stefania. Having a solid business plan and proven traction that you will help the Canadian economy grow, create more jobs if you get that letter of support in Canada. And, so that's the most important criteria. Then every business incubator or an angel group or an investor, they have their own diligence method. So everyone has their own qualifying or sectors of interest and whatnot. So I really see what PGA is doing can help you sharpen your business focus and really know how the North American market works. So that's the key part of the service. I had some experience working back in Silicon Valley, Amex, NVIDIA. So, I did had some market experience and whatnot, having spent some 10 years with corporates as well. So I figured my way through, but it's not easy. Like I saw in one of the slides, it sounds easy, but it's not.
Right. Vince, anything to add to that on investment, on money and stuff?
Yeah, I'll just turning my mic on there. The program is designed to be flexible, and it's also designed to give more discretion to the designated organizations. So the government finally seems to have understood that they're not the best, the immigration officers maybe aren't the best people to make a decision about what businesses are going to be successful in Canada and what businesses are not going to be successful. So they've really tried to make the program flexible so that the designated organizations have as much discretion as possible to pick the businesses that they want to pick. So for that reason, there's no stated minimum investment. Of course, that doesn't mean you don't need to invest anything in your business. You're going to have to invest in your business, but it's really up to you, and it's really on a case by case basis for the designated organizations to make a decision.
Yeah, Vartika, I noticed you were nodding your head vigorously there when you said things about maybe the government officials aren't the best judges of business. Was that your experience as well?
So now, I've started doing some small angel investments, and, I have a knack for picking up great business ideas. So, it's a lot of work that investors do when they're doing diligence. And I'm involved with a lot of accelerators with the DMZ community. I'm like advising and working with them, and I screen applications day in and day out. So it's rigorous, it's actually growth. So what the investors are looking for, how can this business be good for this market, and can we really help you or not? So there's a lot of things, and for a founder, it's their baby. Being a founder, I know that you really love what you're building. So, but does it work in this market or not? It's at the discretion of the person evaluating it and judging it. So of course, the government officials, they have a lot of other busy things to do. So they have outsourced this thing to qualified designated authorities, organizations, as they call it.
Okay, I've got another question here. It's a broad one, and maybe Stefan, you can field this. What other things do I need to qualify for the program? So people are like, I've got the money. What else do I need? What can get me going?
Well, you need to speak English or French, but most of the incubators accept only the English language speakers. We actually just had a client who had issues. He was coming from a French jurisdiction from Africa, and got accepted to the incubator, but in the end, he just couldn't do the program in French. So you need to speak a good command of English. It was one of the slides. Just look back on this recording, what needs to be done. And you can do a mock test first, just to test where your English level is. And then you need to pass this test in your home country. Usually British Council does these tests all over the world. Yep. That's it. Thanks, Sean. What else you need? You need commitment that you are going to work on your business, and we are going to help you all the way. We hold your hand and support you throughout. We try to find funds for you. We try to introduce you to industry players, so your life is a little bit easier when you do land. And you need to decide if you want to come to Canada just after you get your PR or even before. When you get the letter of support, you can actually, Pace Immigration can apply on your behalf for a work permit, and you can come to Canada and work on your business on a work permit.
Yeah, anything on that, Vince? Anything about, I noticed we put up this slide here. I wouldn't mind getting a comment on it, if only because it has a dollar sign. But if I throw this one up here, like bring enough money to settle, if you can kind of go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so you can see that, I mean, the funds required under this are quite minimal. Really, if you look at the requirements of the government's requirements for the startup visa program, they are pretty minimal. They're pretty basic. I mean, 33,000 for, or between 12,000 and 33,000 is really low for a business program. Like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of the other programs that have a minimum investment will also have a requirement to prove that you have a certain amount of net worth. And then once you're asking clients to prove their net worth and their source of funds, then the application can get very complicated. So if you look at the government's requirements for the startup visa program, it's very basic. It's kind of simple. But, please keep in mind that for startup visa program, you're not just dealing with the government's requirements. You're also dealing of the designated organization. And every designated organization has its own set of criteria or requirements. We have some businesses that were not accepted by several designated organizations, but other designated organizations loved it and they accepted it right away. It really depends on the group. And I think that's something that PGA could definitely help guide the clients through that process because they have a working relationship with so many different incubators and angel investors and VC funds here in Canada. We can take a look at what your business idea is, what your business plan is, and try to find a designated organization that's a good fit for you and that you're going to meet their requirements for the startup visa program. So
what kind of, we're saying that, you have to be acceptable to the government, which is minimal, and then you have to meet expectations of others. What kinds of business, is there a ballpark idea of what kinds of businesses qualify for this? Stefania, maybe you can field that.
Well, usually the incubators, and I think Vartika can second on that, usually are looking for technology, some new technology firms, but they also had success with clients, entrepreneurs coming from a very traditional business, like construction, where they had an innovative idea that they pursued, and the incubators thought this is a great idea and they wanted to support it. But Vartika, what is your experience in this field?
Yeah, I would second that. But before I say what incubators are looking for, I would say commitment is the very most important thing. Commitment of, moving to Canada, building a business here, and having enough confidence and courage that, hey, you can do it at the end of the day. And now what the incubators and investors are looking for, technology is a reason how you can build a scalable and a really big company, right? That's how you can scale and help the Canadian economy grow, create more jobs. So technology is like a easy spinball answer that, hey, you need to be a tech business, else you can scale if you're, just selling services or just building up an e-com shop. So incubators are looking for scalability and really that solid business case that this business is relevant to the Canadian economy. You complement the Canadian economy, be it, say, immigration tech. Right now, immigration tech, there's a lot of agencies recruiting, like StackUp was a recruiting company, and the whole play was with tech, we can help companies find engineering talent in a in a better, faster, and a cheaper way. And that's how we use tech. And there was a clear business case how StackRap is going to create more jobs, help companies hire and scale. So there's a lot happening in the agri-tech sector, a lot happening in climate change, which are very, very relevant to Canada as a country. So it's just all about relevancy, and that relevancy will actually come from your commitment.
Yeah, I'd like to add that to Vartika's comments that incubators are looking at the founders, what the founder is bringing to this opportunity. You can tweak the business, but at this point, you probably can't tweak the founder himself or themselves. So it's important what Vartika mentioned, that you need to have a commitment, you need to have that energy that the incubators are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a difference, doesn't it? If you like the person, if you think they're going places, it's not just about maybe what they're selling, but who's selling it, right? I think. We've got some more questions here coming in the chat. I've got another one. This one, when can I come to Canada? Vince, when? So this is all great and all, but when can I come to Canada? Sorry, Vince, I think you're muted there, Vince, if you want to throw the microphone on.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I mean, you can come anytime as a visitor, and that's not a bad idea. Come as a visitor and kind of check things out and do a little bit of business exploration, understand the market. But there's a couple of, I mean, that one of the great things about the startup visa program is that they have this option where you can kind of work permit while you're waiting for your permanent residence application to be approved. So the processing time for the PR applications is become slower in the last few years because of COVID or because of staffing shortages or whatever the reason that the government is giving. It's undeniable that the processing times are a little bit slower than they were a few years ago. But like I said, the advantage of the startup visa program is just an option. You have to come on a work permit. There are other programs where you have to come on a work permit and start your business in order to be eligible for permanent residence. That's not the case with the startup visa program. It's just an option. So if you want to get going on your business, you don't want to wait for 2-3 years for your PR application to be processed. You can come on a work permit. It's much faster to come in on a work permit than it is to come in, to wait for your PR. I don't want to make it guarantees on the processing time for the work permit applications, but usually it's a matter of months as opposed to a matter of years like it is with the PR application. So, as soon as you get the letter of support is really the key document that we need for the immigration application. We can prepare the immigration application right away. How long does it take to prepare the immigration application? A lot of the time that depends on the client, because a lot of the documents have to be provided by the client. But assuming we can get everything very quickly, we can submit the PR application very quickly, and we can submit a work permit application at the same time. And, you can be here a few months after you get the letter of support, in theory.
I've got a couple of questions here coming in the chat line I just wanted to get to because person seems to be very interested about the money angle here. So I've got one is any minimum capital outlay for the startup business, any minimum requirement for creating jobs in Canada. Vince, we talk about that now and then about the government being interested in how many jobs you're going to create. Maybe you can address that. And then Stefania, I'll come to you circling back, I guess, to government fees and things. But Vince, what about jobs?
Yeah. They want, so that's stated in the requirements. The government is looking to attract businesses that can eventually create jobs for Canadians, but there's no minimum job requirement like there is with some of the entrepreneur programs, like the Saskatchewan Entrepreneur Program or the Ontario Entrepreneur Program have stated minimum number of jobs that you need to create. Even if you look at the EB-5 program in the US, they have a stated minimum number of jobs that you need to create with your investment. The startup visa program doesn't have a minimum, but I think, again, they're looking for things that I think the word that was used before is a good one. It's scalable. They want something that's going to be able to grow, that's going to eventually be able to compete on a global scale. And, obviously, if you're talking about a business that's scalable, that eventually is going to be able to compete globally, then that's going to definitely create jobs for Canadians. But no, there's no minimum number of, it doesn't say you have to create a certain number of jobs, or your business plan has to state that you're going to create a certain number of jobs in order to be eligible for the program. Again, a lot of the discretion is with those designated organizations.
Stefania, fees, government fees and things?
When we, I'd like to circle back to the job creation. So when we submit the application or prepare the application to the designated organization, we list those jobs that are needed to start this business in Canada, and we put a price tag on it, like how much is the minimum salary of such a graphic designer or chief technology officer or whatever is needed for that business. So we advise the client on that when we work on the business plan. The government fees is more of Vince's territory. PGA, PACE Global Advantage, we have our fees when we work with the client. We don't have a set fee because every client is different and every application requires different amount of work, and we identify that during the interview. How much would it cost? It also depends on how many people apply in the same application. As Vince mentioned, it can be up to 5. So there are many factors at play. Vince, would you like to discuss the government fees?
Yeah, really briefly, Vince. I mean, if people are going to make this move, quite honestly, I mean, the fees can't be the off-putting thing, can it?
Yeah, I think if people are thinking about the startup visa program, and there's different pros and cons to the program, I don't think that, yeah, you're right, the government fees would be a deal breaker for too many clients. It's minimal. There are application fees, a few $1,000s, depending on how many family members for the PR application. It's going to be a few $100s per applicant for the work permit if you decide to come in on the work permit. So really, it's minimal. It's not nothing, but I think in most cases, clients need to expect to be able to spend some money on this. And there are going to be costs, and the government fees are one of those costs, but they're not really the major cost, I would say.
Yeah, Vartika, it's a case of chalking it up to, that's the price of doing business, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's about the cost benefit analysis also at the end of the day. Like if you're spending and moving to Canada in North America, your intention is to do business in North America. So, and with your business, you will also potentially scale in dollar value, right? So it's at the end of the day, it's a cost benefit analysis, and it truly depends. How many people, how many founders, do you have family members? So it's not a lot of money. It's not very, very high. It's doable at the end of the day. And it circles back to the commitment, right? If you really want it, you make it happen.
Right. Another question coming in on the chat, Stefania. Do I need to incorporate in Canada?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
You need a Canadian corporation for that. And I just wanted to second here Vartika's comments about scalability. You might just want to expand to North America. You haven't thought about immigrating to Canada, but this immigration program might be the tool actually to scale up and make it a success for your business.
Yeah, Vince, we talked about that before. I found it interesting that immigration was almost secondary for a couple of people that we've talked to. Really, it's about getting access to the North American market.
Yeah, and that's an important point too, because that's an advantage to doing business in Canada actually, is that we do have a free trade agreement with the United States. If you want to get into the US market, just because you're in Canada doesn't mean you're cut off from that huge market. So, if it's a debate between maybe setting up your business in Silicon Valley or, here in Toronto area, there's probably pros and cons to both sides. But at the end of the day, you're going to have access to this huge North American market. So I think that there are, definitely. Sorry, what was the question again?
Oh no, just that we had spoken. just that we had spoken about it before, and it's not necessarily, immigration actually for some people is coming secondary. It's really the access to the market that they're looking for.
That's right. Yeah. That was, yeah. Yeah. So most of the people coming in under the startup visa program, that was the point I wanted to make, was that, most of these people are people who have innovative businesses. They can set their business up in a number of places around the world. And there are, other startup visa programs in other countries around the world. The UK, for example, has a startup visa program. Portugal has a startup visa program. But Canada is one of the few places that provides permanent residence. So a lot of the people coming in under this program, they've got a business, they want to do the business. It's just a question of what the best place is. I think the advantage to Canada is, the PR is one thing, but there are obviously other advantages to doing business in Canada as well. So it's really up to the clients. But yeah, you're right. Most of the clients for the startup visa program are driven by the business and the desire to, see their innovative business idea come to fruition. And they're just trying to decide the best place to do that. And the PR is one factor and one thing that they might take into account when they're making that decision.
I would just like to add to that. Yeah. So when I figured that Canada is my market and I want to move here, I didn't know about startup visa. I didn't have the letter of support. No clue about it. I incorporated my company in Delaware in the US. You can do business in the US as an alien. In Canada, you cannot. So being an Indian resident, I did that. And now when I got my letter of support, then I incorporated the company in Canada. The IP was in Canada, made the US company as a subsidiary for tax reasons and whatnot. And then the whole North American market was an access point for getting more and more clients for the business, right? And keeping the cost extremely low by being in Canada and being a resident. So in the US, you have to play a lot of visa challenges and whatnot, right? In Canada, there is none, so and you're closer to the market. So there's a lot of advantages that the whole country offers in terms of access to the market, and immigration really becomes secondary.
Interesting. Stefania, a question here from the chat. Age of the applicant. While the startup visa program is not very particular about age, will the immigration authorities be concerned about the age of the applicant?
Well, it's not specific as the question rightly states. So no, we had clients in their 20s, and we had successful clients in their 50s. Of course, it's easier to present an innovative idea when you are at the beginning of your career, or you had, the mid career. You have already achieved something, so there's something to show that you are successful, but that there's no age requirement. Vince, what is your experience on this?
Yeah, same thing. We've had very young clients, and I had a client who was I think he was 67 when he applied, and he was approved, got his PR, and he's here with his family right now, running his business. So really, age is not, it shouldn't be a factor. Obviously, you have to look at
rightly so, honestly.
Right?
My co-founder and CTO, just a number, right? My co-founder and my CTO was like 21 when he got his PR in Canada. So age is really just a number.
Okay, so I'm hearing ages from early 20s to 67. So I don't think age is a factor. I think the product and the business idea and how you present it is the important thing. Vartika, your experience, what do you wish you knew before you started this startup visa process? Maybe something you could have prepared for better or anything like that?
I really wish I knew how to incorporate a company. Like, I didn't know that you can incorporate the company in British Columbia without having a Canadian residency. And that was the whole reason why I had to incorporate in Delaware and not in Canada in the first place. If I knew that, I would have saved some cost back then. However, I made that turn out well because we had a lot of clients in the US after that. So that was one. The second thing was also, the best practices of doing business in Canada, like like I was in Alberta, so you have to have an Ontario incorporation, so different provinces. So there's a lot of rules that one really doesn't know. And having the right network, the right support group is really, really helpful. So that, and the third is, it's important to network your way through. Canada it looks big, it's a small country, and tech is smaller within that. So everyone knows everyone. So it's important to know the right people and have access to the right ecosystem too. So yeah, so I wish I had more of that early on. Probably I would have still be running my second company and would not have exited.
Yeah, this all ties
Yeah,
into.
I think these are all areas
Go ahead,
where,
Stefan.
sorry to interrupt, but these are all areas where PGA can be of help.
Yeah, I was about to say we've got a couple of minutes left, so Stefania, maybe a little bit of your pitch on PGA, tying all that together. I mean, the incorporation thing has come up a couple of times. Maybe talk about that process, how you can help people do that.
It's quite easy, actually. Well, you need to decide how you want to incorporate your company. As Vartika mentioned, the federal and provincial system might be a little bit alien to you, but we can easily advise you on that. You incorporate your company. We do that in a day, less than a day. So it's not a difficult thing to do. Of course, it has some fees associated with it. But once you decide to do this program, you don't need to incorporate at the beginning of the application. You can wait until you are accepted. You get a letter of support, so you can be sure that you are on the right track to permanent residency and to get your business started. Then we incorporate your company in a day. You're good to go.
Excellent. We're coming towards the end of our time, but I just wanted to make sure everyone got a chance to get their contact details in. Vartika, people can contact you on LinkedIn and maybe talk about the Startup Visa program and how they can get things started.
Yes, I can be reached up on LinkedIn and on Twitter as well. I have a pretty unique name, both in Canada and India. So just Google me, you'll find me for sure.
Okay, Vartika Manasvi. And Vince, contacting you and getting this thing started, what would you like to see in that initial email?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a resume or you want to just tell me a little bit about your business, your innovative idea, that's always helpful. But I mean, one thing I just wanted to mention quickly, one of the advantages to working with our group is that cooperation that we have between PGA and Stefania's team and the immigration team that we have at Pace Law Firm. Pace Law Firm is more than just immigration. I mean, obviously, if you want to get an immigration consultant to help you with your application, you're free to do so. But one of the advantages I think with is that the Startup Visa program is more than just the immigration application. As we were talking about, there's incorporation. We have a corporate lawyer at Pace Law Firm who can help with incorporation. We're a full service law firm, so a lot of those other services that are going to be required in your journey towards becoming Canadian and settling here and doing business here, we can help with those things pretty much every step of the way. We have a real estate lawyer if you're looking to purchase a home or get some kind of a someplace to live when you get here. We can help with that. So I think that's something that really works well for us, is that cooperation between the law firm, the immigration firm, and as well as the other departments at the law firm and Stefania's side at PGA.
Yeah, Stefania, if you want to close things out with a few comments and what you would like to see when people initially contact you.
Exactly the same. We would like the CV. We would like to set up a Zoom call, see the founder, as we emphasized, both Vartika and myself throughout this webinar. We would like to see the commitment in the applicant, that what they want to achieve here in Canada, that we can work with. They have the energy, they have the activity to follow through. This may be a few years commitment. They need to understand that it's not in a week or so that you are going to be successful. And then we have very happy clients. One of them is actually just in the office on Monday from Nigeria. First time I met the client, and we've been working with him for almost 2 years now. We got a letter of support about a year ago, and he's very happy. So it's good to see happy clients, and we hope to see many more from India.
Excellent. Thanks very much to the panel for joining. You can contact them. I'll have the contact details on the YouTube video when we put it up, as well as on the website, etc. But thank you very much for the panelists for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you all again soon. Thank you.